Hey everyone, and welcome to the Best of 3 Call of Duty Esports podcast. I'm your host Josh, SalvationsElite to my right, Bash _ Bo3, and to our farthest right per usual is Rex, Shady, Nero. And guys, a jam-packed podcast today. Sam's got the Oak Boys hat on in honor of 100T and a whole bunch else. But guys, we have a jam-packed news segment, a lot to talk about today. We're gonna talk about some MVP valuable things again to go over what we talked about last week. So the hotness of last week, and we're gonna be talking about the ideal format for this year and how it could potentially play out in the COD League. But before we get any of that, guys, I've got to ask, what's going on?
Well, Josh. You scared?
Happy guys, Halloween. Happy Halloween. We decided to pull a little trick on y'all this week. We've seen the themes going around. Warzone. That's what it's called.
Would be the Call of Duty game.
And Rex didn't get his normal intro. Got cut off by a jump scare. Yeah, I was scared. But I mean, Rex, how you doing in a less wild way than normal?
Well, Josh, I'm feeling like a calendar who has every day set out perfectly. The 1 is in the 1 slot. The 2 is in the 2 slot. Everything lines up perfectly until the very end.
Oh, no.
There's an extra square that just needs to be filled in, and it's just not quite there. But I've come to terms with that fact, and I'm okay with it.
That's nice. A nice vacation day at the end of the month. Sam, how you doing?
Did you know that they make Sour Patch Kids Go-Gurts?
Oh, no.
So my wife got some, fun little surprise for the kids.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm like, well, that's pretty cool, right?
And you had to try one, right?
I tried one. It's sour.
Like, actually?
It's sour yogurt, bro.
That actually sounds really good, to be honest.
I thought it would just be the flavor of like Sour Patch Kids, but no, it is legit sour yogurt.
Was it, did it qualify as good, though?
No.
Oh. What? Did it taste like expired yogurt?
It tastes literally imagine like
liquidated Sour Patch Kids?
Yeah, but like a bunch of like sourness. But like
I don't know how I feel about that.
I need my Go-Gurts to be sweet though.
Yeah.
Maybe some people like it, but
it's not sour then sweet.
No, it's just sour gone. It's not sour sweet gone. It's sour and then gone.
I'm scared.
Okay. So
I don't know how I feel about that.
Let you know.
Yeah, literally. We do have a lot to go over today, so I don't want to talk too much about Sour Patch Kids.
Remember Trix yogurt? Oh,
I do remember Trix yogurt.
Yeah,
I do.
That was fire, dude. That was so good.
That was high quality, like elementary lunch, value right there.
That was like 2 scoops and they were.
Yeah, it was good. But
they were so
again,
good.
Today you can listen to this podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. You can watch on YouTube, and you can drop a review on Apple Podcasts, which we are going to read a review today. Thanks to all of you who have been dropping the reviews. We appreciate you guys. If you left one, we'll do our best to read them on the podcast. And today we got one from Bewit15. He said, "Saved my life, 5 stars. Some people come home from working their miserable job, down a bottle of whiskey, eat away their depression, or even put their wife into a full Nelson till the neighbors call the cops."
What?
Well, not me, he says. At least on Tuesdays. No, I put in my earbuds, kick up my feet, and listen to the Best of 3 podcasts. The only way I can explain the feeling would be like having one end of the set of jumper cables on my terminals of the battery in a Lamborghini Gallardo, and the other clamped on my nipples. Oh my word. I prefer to watch on YouTube so I can see the handsome lads, but just listening on Apple Podcasts is nothing to shake a stick at. For an hour to an hour and a half, I forget all my problems listening to the boys talk about Call of Duty, and I lay shirtless in bed like Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park. Much love for the boys. Give them a listen if you haven't already, and stop performing WWE finishers on your spouses.
Thank you, B15. Words of wisdom, really.
Very.
I got to ask, on Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
what's going on?
Is your wife not okay?
I mean, we'll call the cops if necessary. Let us know, wife.
At least on Tuesdays, it's
going well on Tuesdays. But guys, again, we got a lot to talk about today, and today we wanted to debut kind of like a quick question. So I'm going to kind of get the juices flowing in the Call of Duty world. So today we're going to debate who had, if they were to both retire today, who would have had a better career if they both retired today, Dashy or Cellium? Do either of you have a hot take right off the rip, Rex?
Cellium.
Why?
I feel like, Cellium, I would assume probably has a higher placing on average. He wasn't, kicked out halfway through the season in Modern Warfare, and he was an all-star player. So Dashy, all he really has over Cellium is that he was on Hex's OpTic.
Yes,
but Dashy's Black Ops 4 season was so much better.
Yeah, significantly better.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Dashy was a top 5 player in BO4.
Well, but where does team place though on average?
Better than
OpTic was top three at champs. They won the first event of the year. Throughout the year, they were very competitive, and Dashy in World War II was a very good player in World War II. He very good player.
Sensor,
that was like Sensor, Blast, and Ricky on that. Like, what was that? Complexity
that was
squad?
On that amateur team. I'm not technically really looking at the amateur side of things, but I feel like all in all, Cellium has. If I was making a team, would I pick Cellium or Dashy? I have more confidence in Cellium doing that than I would in Dashy.
But the question is, who had a better career?
Cellium.
If they both retired.
Dashy was not even here halfway through Modern Warfare season.
Yeah, but again, he was a top 5 player all the way through BO4, and he was a fantastic player in BO2. In COD World War II. Yeah, they did not finish well, but they were in the Pro League. I would say Dashy just slightly. Again, Cell basically made his debut in the middle of last year. He played, was on FaZe Clan Black until like the middle of last year, and Cell had a solid debut, but it wasn't great by any means with FaZe at the beginning of last year, in the middle of last year, and then this year he was fantastic. At the end of the day, I feel like Dashy would have had the slightly better resume throughout the 3 years. Obviously, this year didn't go ideal for him, but this year is comparable to Cellium's BO4 year. And so, Cellium, of course, had a fantastic year this year, the MVP of the Atlanta home series, and they won, 3 tournaments this year? So, and they finished second at champs versus Dashy's third at BO4 champs. So I think it's really, really close for me. The X factor is that Dashy had like a fantastic year in BO2 as well. So I'll give a slight edge. I'm sorry, World War II.
Why do you say he had a fantastic year in World War II?
He was renowned as an elite player in World War II.
The reason why he got picked up at OpTic was because of World War II.
Right. He was really, really good.
Right. I know he was really, really good, but his team didn't really do anything though. But
individual performance matters.
I guess if you're like doing individual career, like him as a player,
who has the best career, I feel like Cellium did.
So I guess really close.
Now,
that's the point of the quick question.
But Dashy was on the OpTic legacy. He'll always have that brand behind his name.
Right, so and Dashy dominated.
That's always a plus. But
again, Cellium has never won a full-on 12-team tournament. He's only won. He's won open bracket tournaments, but he's never won a full tournament. Yeah. You let the dog out.
Yeah, the best he did was he got third in Black Ops 4 CWL Pro League playoffs.
Right. So, at the end of the day, I think it's really, really close, which is why we chose the question.
Yeah, it is.
But I'll give Dashy the slight edge. Rex, you're giving Cell the slight edge. You're giving
Cellium.
Sam? Man. Who do you give him the slight edge? Choose
Cellium.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Okay, so with that said, let's get into the news. We got a ton to talk about today. With that said, let's get right in to the news. The Call of Duty News of the Week. Beginning of the news day. Today was a wild, wild day in Call of Duty. Obviously, we've been keeping up with this OpTic news for a while now, and finally, we kind of figure out what's going to happen. The question was, who was going to buy the LA spot from Hecz after Hecz acquired it from Immortals? And finally, we have our answer. Nadeshot and 100 Thieves pulling the trigger.
Wow.
Buying the LA spot. And it sounds like the LA Thieves are coming to Call of Duty, as reported by Deserto, which I put a video out about it today. I'm sure you've seen everyone posting about it today. Twitter's been going nuts. Guys, what are your immediate thoughts on the situation? And, what do you think the fallout of it's going to be? Rex?
I couldn't be happier. It's always good to have someone like Nadeshot, good to have a brand like 100 Thieves in your esport. So having him here is going to be nothing but good. And plus now the people that are on that old OpTic team, they won't be seen as villains anymore, but more like heroes again.
Honestly, though,
the one thing that's super exciting is 100 Thieves kills it in the content game.
Right.
So they can only bring more eyes to Call of Duty. So that in itself is a huge plus.
I agree.
But then other than that, seeing Nadeshot back to Call of Duty is always a fun time. So yeah, I am super excited. I just really want an announcement from either Hecz or Nadeshot. Like Hecz has still not said anything about the
It's weird.
Situation. It's so weird. Like usually, like he'd want to announce it himself with this big awesome video. But we haven't heard anything.
This is what happens when things get corporate. Leaks happen.
Sucks.
It sucks. But I totally agree with you guys that like the content aspect, having the legacy of Nadeshot and 100T in the scene is so good for the scene to create storylines and interest heading into a second season. Like it's kind of, I feel like it's exactly the boost of like energy that the league and the scene kind of needed this offseason heading into like a second year. I mean, we're changing to 4v4. We got 100T back. We got Nadeshot back in the scene. Lots of W's for the COD scene the past few weeks. Overall, my question is, or my thought was that, like, I do 100% agree that the content aspect of things is definitely a good call. But like, I mean, everyone's moving to Texas for this season, so realistically, I'm not really expecting like too much in like the content side of things from 100 Thieves until like probably next year, right? Or at least until like after the Modern Warfare season or after the Black Ops.
It could be, honestly.
I don't even know how good their content is. Like they have a League of Legends team, but I don't know if they really like if the players themselves do the content. If it's more of like the streamers, Nadeshot do most of the content.
For sure, yeah. Nadeshot and Courage and Valkyrie and everyone are doing their content for sure. But
then also like they're like announcement videos.
Oh, they're gonna be sick.
They're just like they have high quality content or videographers,
right? And they do know that like the COD scene appreciates it. They want it, and like when you get the right guys on your team, like it's only gonna be dubs. I mean, it's not like Slasher and Kenny and Tej are like the biggest content guys. They don't like love content by any means. But if 100T ends up getting their hands on guys who love content and want to make YouTube videos, and in the future, like that is going to be dangerous for teams moving forward. I mean, we saw like Octane and Priesta like tweet like the sad gifs of like I think Octane tweeted like the classic like SpongeBob Squidward in the window gif, and Priesta tweeted the gym looking through the blinds gif. So I mean, those are some classic stuff, just hilarious. I mean, overall with the whole situation though, it was definitely a little crazy how it came to be. I mean, there was a lot of like question marks about like how this was going to play out. And like last week we talked about like some of like the different types of news that was coming out with like, Jake Lucky Esports Talk going over like the options there, and then Hitch coming back and saying nobody really knows what's going on and all of that. But then for that to kind of end up culminating to Nadeshot and 100T buying the spot. I mean, what do you think changed for 100T and Nadeshot? I mean, he doubled down
on his podcast.
Right. He doubled down on the podcast that it wasn't happening.
On there. He asked him about it too, which I thought was funny.
And not only that, but like he was an advocate against the CDL and the format that it was using with the city-based model. Like literally up until this point, he had been very vocally against it, and like a big reason for why they didn't invest in it, not just because of money, but because he thought that the city-based model was dumb and didn't make sense in the long term. I mean, after the whole rant, I mean, what do you think changed?
Maybe he got a discounted price from Hecz. Like I'm not sure. I mean, maybe Nadeshot, because there's a board a board there that has to go through all these people. It's not just Nade making these sole decisions.
Right.
I don't think.
For sure.
So maybe it was something to do with that, and like maybe they saw the numbers of Modern Warfare, and maybe they look good, and they got a good deal from Hecz, and the way that it did move towards more of a tournament format now, because originally it was like you play your two season games. Yeah, so like maybe that kind of like eased them more into it. That's my guess.
Yeah, I can think too. I know on one of his podcasts, Hecz was saying that they're one of the teams that almost broke even this year, And so I think, Hecz could have been, talking to him like, hey, listen, I mean, we almost broke even.
True.
You're going to be breaking even within a year or two.
True. Yeah.
Which I know, we know Nadeshot was very, scared that like the investment.
That's a good point.
The investment didn't make sense. Well, if he sees firsthand, hey, Hecz almost broke even
in
on
year
this
one.
Crazy year of like, half the year wasn't even land event. So
right.
I think that could have turned the tides for him a little bit.
True. I actually like that a lot. Yeah. I mean, I totally agree because who's the other team that can put out the content like OpTic or like the Huntsmen do, soon to be potentially OpTic.
Yeah.
Like they do. Of course, it's going to be 100 Thieves and Nadeshot heading that spear, heading into like the COD content, and especially if they can end up getting the right guys for their content and for their team, I mean, they are going to absolutely kill it.
I think.
I mean, before we talk about the Huntsmen, when it comes to rosters, where do you see this fourth coming from for OpTic? I mean, at this point, I think we all assume that it's going to be Slasher, Kenny, Tiege plus a fourth. We've heard the rumors of Draza. We've heard the rumors of Temp. John. Is Enable an option?
Please be John. I want John in the league back so bad.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. But yeah, it could very well be Enable. That would make sense.
Hashtag Oak Boys.
Oak Boys.
I think it's honestly going to be left up to like Slasher. I mean, it's going to be up to those three, honestly, but like Slasher I think is also going to have a pretty big say in it. I mean, my vote, I would love to see Temp back in.
Yeah, I mean, Enable hinted at in his videos that there was some pretty cool things potentially on the table, which maybe this was it.
Yeah.
This was, I can get back on 100 Thieves, not as a player, but maybe as a content creator and like kind of join and like he's been putting out a lot of content lately. It's actually been doing fairly well, which is pretty cool for him. No free shout outs, of course. I see you, Enable. You're doing a lot of videos that I've done in the past. I mean, that's fine. That's fine. I have no beef with that. Yeah. It's just, I wouldn't mind a shout out or something. Just a little inspiration.
No free shout out.
It's fine. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Yeah, it's fine.
You know the rules.
Nah, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, which guy do you feel like is? I would say Temp's the most likely.
Temp and Slasher would be really interesting.
Yeah,
I think they could work.
I would
pretty
like
well.
to see that. Yeah,
yeah, that would be a pretty cool duo of like very intense individuals, and Temp. If he did finally get his one chip, right? But still, like he could be way more successful with Slasher. So that would be pretty cool. Obviously, my first choice would be John, but Temp would be also.
The thing with John, dude, is that he's been out of it's just hard to be like, oh, we'll just grab him when there's so many other challengers players, people who are dropped from their pro teams that you could pick from.
Right.
Like
I know,
so,
but John's like
in a way such a wild card pick almost.
No, but like
as a sub, cool. But
you could probably get him for cheap though. Like you could get him for cheap, and plus that he is good. Like he's a good player. Obviously, like you said, like he hasn't been in the main stage for a year, right?
Yeah.
But like it could be like a theme where like, hey, we'll throw 60K at him.
Right.
Low cost, but potentially pretty high reward. So I don't know. I do see what you're saying though. Like there definitely is a risk there. So.
Yeah, I mean we saw Slasher and Temp team at the beginning of World War II with that NV squad that could have been amazing.
That's
I mean
right.
the Slasher, Hook, Temp and Classic squad at the beginning of World War II, and like I think they had a little bit of success, finishing like top 4.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that team,
but it didn't last that long. I could look it up real quick to see like where they ended up dropping out here, but it definitely didn't last very long if I remember right into the year before they switched up. Let's see here. Yeah, they lasted until early April. So they lasted up until the season stage 1 playoffs, which was actually a decent amount of time. But yeah, so I don't know. I think it could work. I do think it works with them teaming in the past. I see the upside for the team for sure with Kenny there, Tiege there, like. The damage could be done with that squad under 100 T. I mean, I'm sure Temp's in. It's more about whether or not Slasher's in on Temp, and I think that with the options they have left, I feel like that's going to happen. I'm feeling pretty good about that. So I don't know. I mean, anything else on the 100 T side of the whole equation that comes to mind, or should we move on to the Huntsmen?
Pretty much it.
Huntsmen.
Huntsmen.
So. The other side of this whole equation here is what's going to happen with the Huntsmen and OpTic Gaming's brand. Obviously, the question was, all right, is Hecz going to rebrand the Huntsmen, or is NRG going to be down to rebrand the Huntsmen to OpTic or OpTic Gaming in some way? The original report from Jake Lucky was that wasn't going to happen, that the CDL was not in favor of the Huntsmen rebranding to OpTic or OpTic Gaming, either like Chicago OpTic or OpTic Gaming Chicago, something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, has this changed your opinion at all since last week on what could happen?
What was his take on the 100 Thieves buying, though? Wasn't he wrong about that? Didn't he say that 100 Thieves would not be buying?
Yes. Yeah.
So his report could just be total scuffed, So it could be a thing where like the league was fine with it. I don't know. I'm just potentially, if he was wrong.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking too. I'm like, why? I mean, I don't know why the league would be so against it.
Yeah, against the 100T or against the rename?
Against Chicago, like making it Chicago OpTic. Other than like maybe it's an energy thing too. Like what do we like? What is energy like that idea? Right. And maybe
for sure.
maybe Hecz doesn't just want. I mean, I don't know. Just want a COD team. Maybe he wants to he wants a Halo. He wants a COD.
Right. He wants to keep the door open for him to like revive OpTic as a whole.
Because here's the thing: if he calls it the Chicago OpTic, is he giving he gives that naming rights to NRG?
If he calls it OpTic Gaming, in theory, if they call it OpTic, that could be fine. Again, there's a world where Hecz could still maintain the full rights to OpTic Gaming if NRG uses the Chicago OpTic or Chicago OpTic, not OpTic Gaming Chicago. It's the same thing with FaZe, Atlanta FaZe.
Yeah, but if he calls it Chicago OpTic, okay, so let's say Hecz leaves NRG then, but the team is called Chicago OpTic.
No, that means Hecz would still have the rights to OpTic Gaming.
Yeah, but NRG can't change. NRG would be forced to change their name back to Huntsmen, or would
because
NRG would keep the name Chicago OpTic in the COD League.
Yeah. OpTic and OpTic Gaming are two separate things.
Yes, I know that. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm saying just the name. If Hecz left, he would not be able to be. His team would not be called insert city name OpTic because NRG would have that name in Chicago.
Right. But
that's if he leaves.
But he could still be OpTic Gaming, in theory. But
he could still be OpTic Gaming. But he'd have to call his COD team.
There's no way the CDL would let that happen.
He'd have to call his COD team something else because Hecz is going to be COD
maybe that's the roadblock. Maybe it's because Hecz wants to call it OpTic, but the CDL is like, you can only call it OpTic Gaming, and Hecz is like, well, then why no? There's a lot of different reasons for why that could be a holdup. I guess it could be the CDL side, it could be NRG, it could be Hecz not feeling comfortable with a certain part of the equation.
Right. Yeah.
But all three of the above are very possible. I mean, at this point, what do you think is the most likely outcome of the three? Stay the same, OpTic or OpTic Gaming? Pick your poison. Which one's most likely?
Chicago OpTic.
I think it's gonna be Chicago OpTic too.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most likely, or they might just stay the Huntsmen. I think
maybe they changed their color scheme.
That was the other thing, is that people saw that Scump changed his YouTube header to a more OpTic colored theme.
Yeah,
that was definitely like less Huntsman-y and more OpTic-y. And so people got all up in arms about that might mean that for sure they're changing their name to OpTic, but who knows? I mean, it took Hecz a long time to change his last header after he joined the Huntsmen from OpTic in the first place. So all up in the air at this point. So we kind of go in circles now. Let's move on to other news. Let's talk about John, actually, because since we were talking about John just right a second ago, John kind of first gave us his first even like mini update on what in the world kind of came out of the darkness, out of the shadows he's been in for the past like 6 months. Basically he posted a picture of him in like some sort of facility, a medical facility that's some sort of like training facility or rehab facility and like for like injuries in some way. People did some digging. Apparently it's like a place for like spine and like that type of, rehab for like athletic rehab,
like muscular bone stuff.
Yeah. But that doesn't really explain why he was supposedly banned from the CDL for whatever reason. But he did say that he'd be willing to come on to the Eavesdrop at some point and talk with Hecz about it, which would be awesome.
Yes,
I think all the COD scene would love to hear what's going on with John, because I think all of us would love to see John still involved in the COD scene and see what he can do. And so there's a world where John could still make his comeback. There's a world where John could still join like OpTic Gaming. Well, LA Thieves. and I'm gonna have to get used to that one now too. Jeez, and everything else. So that was kind of an update on John, just kind of off the rip there. There's a lot of like small different news things that we kind of have to go over in the news section today. BO4 Throwback tournament was pretty cool. Basically, the Atlanta FaZe threw on a BO4 Throwback tournament, and the top 4 was Dallas, FaZe, Huntsmen, and a team called HYXR, which was a team of Lurid, Hazy, Estriel, and Flames. Basically, the Dallas team wasn't actually Dallas. I mean, it was Hook and Illy plus Temp and Critical. And then FaZe was FaZe, Huntsmen were Huntsmen. And FaZe ended up coming out on top with a grand final being FaZe v Dallas. Like, are you kidding me? Wait, the winners final was FaZe v Dallas. It was, yeah. Like, literally Champs 2.0 here. So that was pretty crazy. I mean, did you guys have a chance to watch much of it? I caught a little bit of the grand final rerun. I caught the first few rounds when it was going on during the day. But, I mean, what did you guys have a chance to see of it?
Yeah, I caught a few maps on Scum stream. Then I did watch a little bit off of at the FaZe's stream. And it was actually pretty cool to see.
It was fun.
Black Ops 4 and 4v4.
Yeah.
I think that could have worked pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, I jumped into Temp stream. Temp stream is always lit. So jump into his stream. I love his stream.
Has he upgraded his camera yet?
No, dude. But
it's still like the same 720p.
Awesome. It's so chill in there. It's the chillest stream. I love his streams, dude. And then also I jumped in R-City's stream. Checked them both out. Yeah, I thought it was really fun. I thought it was fun.
That's cool.
Dude, I agree.
It was definitely cool.
I mean, literally, it plays pretty similarly. Like, you don't most of the time don't really notice like the lack of a missing player. You're not like, oh wow, this is really slow suddenly, you know? Like, generally, I feel like it plays pretty well. I played some 8s on it and, gone back and played some 4v4 on it, and like, it's definitely a fun time. I think it played pretty well, all things considered. And it was a cool tournament. I mean, people are kind of like hopping on this like, see, we told you Atlanta FaZe is going to dominate the season because of this BO4 Throwback. Obviously, I don't think you can really tell much from this. I mean, Formal was playing a Warzone tournament and then like
hopped on to the game
to BO4.
It's like, come on.
Like, there wasn't much thought going into this from a lot of the pro teams. I mean, maybe what other teams played in this? The Gorillas. Did the Surge play?
Surge played.
Was it their full team? I can't remember.
Not their full team.
But yeah, I mean, there was a few other teams that played like a lot of their squads, which is kind of cool. I think like a cool little fun 4v4 run.
Didn't play. It was like Looney, and then like Brian Saint.
Oh, okay.
That was just Looney.
Yeah, Looney basically was the only person, but it was supposed to be other people, but nobody else really showed up, I don't think.
Makes sense. But yeah, I thought it was fun. I thought it was a fun tournament, and yeah, FaZe took it home at the end of the day. Other tournament throwback news, Hecz is throwing a BO2 throwback tournament, and guess what, dude? We're getting the reunion not only of Complexity, but also of the 60-50 OpTic team. Merc, Big T, Nade, and Scump are teaming. That's awesome. And then we got the Complexity squad, Karma, Crim, Teep, Hecz. So that's going to be a blast. I'm going to be really excited to see that and watch that go down. And it's going to be on BO2. I might try to figure out how to do this whole port, download, BO2, play on those servers thing, because cool. I am definitely down to do this. But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to watch it. That's kind of just a news segment on the end of the day. Another thing that I think we should cover, it didn't really get much like talk in other areas of like the scene, but Dashy, this was a weird situation, man. Dashy, it was like a post on Reddit that people were talking about Dashy, quote unquote, scumbagging, on stream, which was, I think, a little unfortunate situation. I was in the stream before it happened. I left the stream and then I saw the post on Reddit like a few hours later and I was like, what? What happened? And apparently Dashy supposedly, basically, it was like a tournament where like you could decide if you wanted to play a best of 1 or a best of 3. And like you should always play best of 3. So I mean, best of 3 is just the way to go. Obviously. But at the beginning of the matchup, Dashy, you could hear him say like, best of 1, let's play best of 1. And then they ended up losing the best of 1, and then Dashy was like, oh, it's the best of 3, right? Jeez. And apparently, it wasn't the most ideal situation. People got pissed. Ended up being like really highly upvoted on Reddit. It had like 700 upvotes or something.
That's what makes me think it actually happened. And
right. And so
pretty.
And then people with like were like clipping it, but then they were getting banned.
Supposedly,
yeah, they were clipping it, getting banned, and then he kept deleting the clips as they were happening. Like,
I mean, he said he deleted the VOD because of DMCA, which again is that's very possible nowadays, but not a great look for Dashy.
I heard it was like right after they would clip it, it was almost like instantly getting taken down.
I mean, this isn't the most like outrageous. I mean, like for things we've heard about Dashy, it's not like that surprising, you know. I mean, he's not like the 10 out of 10 generally outstanding guy, but I like him. Yeah. I do like him. So don't get me wrong. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm a Dashy fan, but not a great situation there for Dashy. I mean, I don't know. Any thoughts on it as a whole? Not ideal.
Just, man, can't be doing that. Especially now, it's like going to the Huntsmen. It's like, oh, this is like the brand new Dashy. Right. This is like a reinvention of what he was, and then that happens.
And he's making bank. He doesn't need like $100 or however much this chow was.
Like you're saying, people already have their concerns about Dashy, like not being committed and that kind of thing, and this doesn't help anything. So hopefully, hopefully he can rectify the situation.
For sure.
Yeah, but.
Yeah, next up on the news docket, in the Rostermania realm, Wuskin tweeted at Paris basically saying, yo, pick me up if you want to win. And then he tweeted, God is good, right? Like pretty soon after that. I don't know. Is it bait? Is it not? Who knows? But it was definitely a weird timing tweet. Again, we're all rooting that Wuskin and Scraps can find a spot.
Those guys need to be playing the league.
It seems absurd that they wouldn't be. And so hopefully something can get figured out in that realm. We still have not one clue what's happening with Paris, but holy cow. Speaking of things that we had no idea what was going on, Toronto's Twitter basically got banned for a day because they changed their age to 1 year ago, like their birthday to 1 year ago, which you have to be 13 to be on Twitter. And so Twitter like insta-banned them because they thought that they were like 1 year old.
That's amazing.
And so their Twitter got banned, and then apparently it got fixed, and now they're back.
That would happen to Ultra, though.
Oh, yeah, right after coming off of, right? Like coming off what happened and how their whole Twitter drama of the Brack situation.
Yeah. It's so like puts on a face of like professionalism, but then what actually happens is like so much like amateur stuff that you're like, whoa. It's so trippy of like, they seem so professional, and this is what actually happened with Brax. Like, whoa, drama. This is all crazy.
I know.
Your account got banned. You tried changing it to some other year.
Yeah, literally. It's actually crazy. I don't know. I just thought that was hilarious. I mean, they were trying to pull a little funny joke because it was their 1 year anniversary on Twitter, and then they got banned for it. It was just straight comedy. In other news, Tommy tweeted another tweet here. I don't think I've been this excited for an announcement regarding my future. I feel like a little kid all over again. So we don't really know what this means, but I thought it was worth mentioning as something to keep an eye on. Of course, Tommy, a legend in the COD scene. Yep. Totally GOAT. I feel like this might be in the content creation side of things.
That's my feeling too.
He's been killing it in the Warzone game lately, and so I feel like this could be very content creator related.
I do know that he did tweet about like possibly wanting to be in challengers too, but I could definitely see it being like a content creator.
Yeah, I agree. It could go either way. Yeah. But I mean, speaking of challengers, today there was if you didn't notice, there was a bunch of it's official gifts on Twitter.
Flooding the timeline.
Because GodRX, Kismet, Maux, and Pandur all tweeted a GIF like at the exact same time. They like kind of planned it out. Yeah. And then like all the pros started like hopping on that bandwagon. Yeah. But GodRX tweeted, this is the challengers team. It's an incredible opportunity. And he was really excited about this. So apparently their challenger team is going to be GodRX, Kismet, Maux, and Pandur. And it looks like they got signed for some sort of actual salary. So that's pretty cool for them, and a pretty fun team to, I think, keep an eye on the year.
That would be like a comeback kids team. Like need like I don't know. Like I think all those
chip
guys,
on our shoulder type guys.
Yeah. So it would be kind of cool to see them, succeed in the challengers for sure.
Yeah, I mean, people saw like Maux and GodRX together, and they're like, "Wow, that's a slow team." I mean, again, I think both of them can play faster than they did last year. Just kind of the roles they had, but I can see the worries there with their play styles clashing. But I think they could be a pretty good team overall.
Yeah.
Yeah. A few things that Scump confirmed also in the news. Again, I told you this was a lengthy news segment. I just about just a bunch of like smaller pieces of news that we needed to catch up on this week. But Scump confirmed a few things. He confirmed two things. He confirmed that first of all, Chicago will stream their scrims again this year. That was a debate last year. That's, some of the fans, some of the, the players in the league kind of like thought it's a dumb idea. Again, I wish every team streamed the scrims. It would just be like so nice if every team just was willing to do it for the sake of growing the scene, for the sake of transparency, for the sake of the fans. But, instead, teams see it as an advantage not to stream their scrims. And I get it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we talked about this before, but I mean, like, at this point, what are your thoughts on scrimming or streaming your scrims?
I think it helps the brand.
Yeah.
But I think we did see, though.
At a cost?
At a cost. So, maybe they're thinking long term and maybe not in the moment, but you can't deny that you will give away some of your strategies. Like, that's just the way it is. But Huntsmen still performed better than 70% of the teams at champs, but they didn't win. So it's like a give and take. I mean,
and at champs, they didn't even stream for weeks leading up to it.
Yeah, they stopped streaming like 2 weeks prior. So I don't know. I think it just matters about the team, and it's like, okay, what do you want to prioritize? Do you want to build your name, or do you want to die hard, go focus on winning?
Yeah,
just whatever you think.
Yeah, I think it makes the job a little bit harder to like actually win in tournaments, but I don't think it makes it so hard that it's impossible. As we've seen with the Huntsmen, like they still were a top 3 team.
Absolutely.
Even while streaming scrims. So like maybe if they didn't stream scrims, who knows what would have happened. But if anything, it's going to be another like place or two. And I don't know. I think streaming scrims would be fine, be great if everybody did it.
Yeah.
But I get why they don't also.
Oh, for sure. Totally. Some Huntsman fans say that it contributes to why the Huntsmen struggle during the middle of the year because teams have so much footage on what they're trying to do in respawns. I mean, at the end of the day, they can still just win every S&D and they'll basically be fine. Like, I don't know. I think streaming the scrims, especially for those guys, because they're such popular streamers, and even just streaming your practice scump can get 5,000 to 10,000 viewers. Like, it's worth it for him for sure.
Yeah, I think it also depends how your team actually scrims and talks to each other in game. Maybe like they scrim, and then when the streams are off, then they go in and like have a VOD review of the scrim. That's when they really talk things through.
And I also know too, like people would like mute mid map, like or not mid map, but like in between maps. So, like,
right.
That's an option too.
And I think they could do more of that probably, or they could stream with their mini map blacked out. If they wanted to do that way, kind of pull the parasite, stream with your mini map blacked out. You could, again, I think agree. Like you could like have mandatory, like, all right, team, let's talk about what happened for 3-4 minutes, so 3 to 5 minutes after every map, regain, then talk to chat. It could be like a more like organized system. Because I know like there's that clip from this year when RCDs blew up on the team, like. I'm out here giving a rant about why we're getting better, and then I hear, "Thanks for the 5 gifted." And RC was getting pissed, at Scump and Formal for not listening to what they were talking about after games. So I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence with it, but at the end of the day, I'm a sucker for content, so I'll take the stream any day. The other thing that Scump confirmed was that the CDL is working on a pause feature for this year. Hallelujah! Which again, that was something we all kind of assumed. With the move to PC, that was going to be a lot easier to do. And thank goodness. Because it's desperately needed with an online season, probably for the first handful of months of this year at the least.
No more someone getting booted and then that just chalking the whole map.
Oh, and then pure debate on Twitter for 30 minutes.
So it's just so dumb. Like, so dumb.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, no. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I mean the other few things on the news segment I want to talk about real quick was the COD Champs Mobile. COD Mobile's Champs, the viewership is actually kind of scary. Like weird. It's insane. I mean their viewership is like pretty good. Like 30,000 to 70,000 viewers. Like that's terrifyingly good for like COD Champs on a mobile game, competitive mobile games, especially when it comes to COD, when like COD already exists. I mean, I get it. COD Mobile, when it comes to a mobile game, pretty insane.
Pretty cool.
I mean, I wish that was a COD game. Yeah. I would die for that game. Yeah. But it's just like
touchscreen controls are
I don't know.
so weird.
This is my thought always, and I know I mentioned this before, but like I don't trust Activision at all. And if anything, if they find another aspect of COD that they can create, if they can turn the competitive, like the CDL into, I get worried, you know? And I don't know. Hopefully the success of COD Mobile shows that like competitive COD, you know, can reach a more global market. That's hopefully like the positive spin on it. But like, I don't know if any of you watched. Did any of you watch any of the gameplay besides the one clip?
Besides the one clip. Besides the comm clip. Oh
the
my
comm clip, dude, was crazy.
Wow.
But like, there's like no GAs at all. They're using shotguns, RPGs. Like it is pure chaos. One of them was using like the chainsaw LMG. I was watching. It was an S&D on. What map was it? Anyway, it was an S&D, and they threw a smoke, and they just chainsawed LMG through the smoke, and I'm like, this is what Search and Destroy is right now. And this is for a lot of money, and they're using a chainsaw LMG through his smoke.
Yeah, that is wild.
And he found a 2-piece through the smoke using a chainsaw LMG.
I would be so heated, like,
dude.
This is so
I was mind blown, dude. But I thought that was just crazy. It's just like that's getting like 70,000 viewers.
Yeah.
What? So. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's a positive or a negative, but it definitely gets me a little.
Honestly, that sounds kind of hype with the smoke and the LMG chainsaw. I would love to see that in the Pro League. That would be lit.
Oh, it'd be terrible.
This is the most Rex thing I ever heard in my life.
Dude, that would be so. You cannot tell me the entertainment value of that is high.
I mean, yeah, agreed. The entertainment value
integrity
is high.
Debate all you want, but it's definitely fun to look at.
True. The other thing that I wanted to talk about real quick was, more and more players announcing they're moving to Texas. I mean, Zuma tweeted today that he's moving to Texas, Attached moving to Texas, Octane, Slasher, Accuracy, Kenny. I don't know who else. Definitely others are moving to Texas. And already a lot of guys are already there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, again, it only makes sense. But like half the COD League's going to be in Texas at this rate by the time the season rolls around in probably early January or something.
Let's make a bubble then.
Right?
Yes, please.
Let's just get the bubble going.
You're already all there.
Right, dude? That's what I'm saying. So something to keep an eye on and keep tabs of and see how it affects their play this year. If like suddenly these guys are going off online, you're like, well, that's a little interesting, because of where they're living right now. But yeah, that's just something to keep an eye on. The last topic that I wanted to talk about in the news segment. I wanted to hear your guys' opinions on this stuff because this was juicy. It's not as directly related to the Call of Duty League, but basically there's two things. DMCA on Twitch has been a big deal as of the past few weeks. And the also like the Deserto article about the director of Google Stadia who thinks streamers should pay devs for the games that they're streaming. I mean, I don't know which one. Let's start on that one because that seems absurd.
I think that what that was said is being kind of misconstrued of what maybe his original, what like he was intending to say with it. Because people were complaining about the DMCAs, and I think he was getting frustrated. Like, I think he's just looking at it from like legally speaking, these games could just go in and shut you all down. So like you're complaining about this music, but like you have more danger. Think about the games and stuff that you're playing too, because they could easily just go and do that. I don't think he's saying that they should do that, but I think he's trying to like, I don't know, ease people away from complaining about it so much.
I mean,
that could be a much bigger deal than what it is.
But I mean, that's like a philosophical debate. Is if you're playing a multiplayer game, is the gameplay that you are playing yours because you're the one holding the controller? Or is it Activision's because they're the one that's publishing Call of Duty?
I mean, it's technically their content. I'm pretty sure, legally speaking, they have the ability to take down... Like, Nintendo used to, I think, to do that. Is that you couldn't, like, play Nintendo games or, like, they had a way of, like, you couldn't record Nintendo games back in the day.
Yep.
And so, like, they definitely have the rights to do that. Yeah,
Nintendo had a hard stance of you cannot share the content that so, like...
Well, see...
You do buy the game, it is your game, but you cannot share that. Like you can't share it. That's the stance that they took. I don't know.
I just don't know how that holds up because like I get it's their game. I get that. But like I know on YouTube as well there was a time when YouTubers couldn't show the cutscenes of games, but they could show everything else. So like YouTubers would have to cut out the cutscenes and like give a summary of what happened in a cutscene or something, because the cutscene was not them controlling the controller, or controlling the game. So I could see like both sides, but like I feel like if you're playing a multiplayer game and you're the one commentating over it, you're the one creating you're putting your spin on the game. Like you may not even be playing the game the way the game was intended to be being played. Like so much creativity could be going into this gameplay, and then it's not yours, even though you have so much creativity with how this gameplay was created. Like
my thing though is like, is there any game developers that think this way? Like,
right? No, I don't think that's.
I think
really
the majority of them. I think the majority of them like streamers. Like, how many times have streamers brought attention to their games?
Right,
yeah,
and that's the great debate of DMCA and these types of arguments is, what's the value of somebody watching your game being played and then downloading it themselves, and like Minecraft's $20, how much money has Minecraft made because of YouTubers and because of streamers playing the game? Infinite. It's unquantifiable, like how much money YouTube has made Minecraft.
Mm-hmm.
And if they would have been forcing YouTubers to pay licensing fees from the beginning, who knows if Minecraft would have ever taken off, if they were doing that from the beginning. Who knows? So that's a big debate for me about that. I mean, it's just a little worrying that somebody, who's in such a powerful position as the director of Google Stadia would even like throw that out there. Like his words was, "It's all gone as soon as publishers decide to enforce it." Like, I don't know. It sounds like there's actually like a.
It is though. I'm pretty sure that's true.
Like a discussion
they
there.
Can do that.
Right.
I don't think any of them really think it's a good idea. It's not like they can't.
Yeah. No. I think you're right there. Like, yeah, they could, but again, I feel like publishers and devs are on more of the streamer side than anything. I think. I just feel like they're just making them so much money.
And then he followed up with his own tweet and said, "The real truth is streamers should be paying the developers and publishers of the games they stream. They should be buying a license like any real business and paying for the content they're using." So that was what the director of Stadia said. And again, Stadia is a streaming platform where you pay per month to play the games. Like, this is very in line with what Stadia is, like I don't know, man. Like, most developers get that that's absolutely outrageous. I mean, developers are paying. How much money do you think they're paying Tim the Tatman to play their games, or Shroud, or Ninja, or streamer? Insert streamer here.
They all have like YouTuber hour segments of some game. Like,
oh my word,
like Rogue Company. I know Valorant paid Tim a ton of money.
Like, do you think you'd be playing Rogue Company if Nadeshot wasn't? Like, if guys weren't paid to play Rogue Company?
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't even know about Rogue Company until...
I would.
I just didn't even know about it until...
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I don't know who it was.
I didn't know about it until Nadeshot played it.
Yeah, so, like... If I would have found it by myself, I would have played it, but I didn't. So, like, that's the advantage of...
Right.
Having streamer game is you get more eyes on it. So
exactly. So let's pull that argument into the DMCA debate of Twitch. So DMCA is basically the fancy term for your Twitch being flagged or copy striked, basically the YouTube equivalent, for using copyrighted music in your streams. Mm-hmm. And it's got to a point now where basically Twitch has said, if you are basically using the music in any way that, I mean, they have the most broad rules ever that basically allows the record labels to do whatever they want. And Twitch, I don't know, either Twitch is just trying to like play the line as best they can, or they, they're trying to like slowly transition away from it. I don't know. But like at the end of the day, it's obviously, in my opinion, a massive abuse of power from the record labels and like a completely like idiotic, like short-term stance on like music usage. So basically Twitch has forced all streamers that are, especially partnered streamers, but basically any large stream or moderately sized stream, to delete all their VODs on their channel, because their stupid policy for banning people on Twitch is so strict that like if you have 3 strikes, you're out. But like in theory, they'd have the right to ban you if 3 of your VODs get striked.
It'd be 3 separate strikes.
It would count as 3 separate strikes, but it could all happen in 1 second.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy.
Like YouTube's policy is like one day is more like it, like 1 set of strikes at a time.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, Twitch's policy is outrageously strict and terrifying for a lot of streamers, especially streamers who've been streaming for years, who have clips and VODs out there, just a bunch of random days, and especially for big streamers who have their whole lives on the platform. Like for me personally, it's like, I could probably just stream on YouTube if my channel got banned. I'm okay with risking it to have the streams more interesting with music. But anyway, I've been ranting again. Here I am. What do you have any, like, what are your thoughts on this? Like, as DMCA, Twitch has basically forced all these streamers to delete their VODs, and any popular streamer basically can't use any signed artist that's signed to any label. You just can't use their music. Thoughts?
I mean, I don't think that's something Twitch would want to do, but it's just a record label thing. I'm not sure how it benefits the record label, because people listen to their music on Spotify or YouTube anyways. So I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know how record labels get their income, really, to be honest.
Right. I mean, record labels sign artists and then own all of their music. So the artist gets paid a salary by the record label, generally, is how that works. And generally, the salary,
royalties too.
Yeah, and they have a royalty percentage of their music, but the record label, gets a large percentage of that because they're the one promoting this artist and getting them the connections, blah blah blah. Anyway, I don't know. My take is I was ranting about this on Twitter. I mean, Sam, do you have anything to say?
No, I think it is ridiculous still. Like, I don't know. It stinks for the streamers, losing content like that. I don't get why I feel like it's streaming music is doing more good for the record labels than not. Just for how many times you get asked like, hey, what song is this?
Right. Dude.
So like,
amen.
I don't know. I just think that that's gonna be a huge, actually probably blow to the record labels more than anything. So
right, like that's what I'm saying. Like the such short term, like the record labels like, don't use our music without paying us.
Yeah.
So like either it's just so weird because it's like if they stop them from using their music, then what are the record labels gaining? Nothing.
Yeah.
Like my thought is like, my thought was that eventually like big record labels would start partnering with big streamers. Like Tim the Tatman would sign with Columbia Records, and then he could use the music from any of those artists that are signed with Columbia Records, and like it would be like exclusivity for music to streamers, which is possible. Or like, streamers start doing like what, certain businesses do and like what radio stations do, like where they sign to use like certain types of music in some way, and they're paying to use it. I don't know. I feel like, what'll end up happening is that basically all streamers are going to go look for independent artists to stream the independent artist music, because it's not going to get copy striked. Like someone like KSI, for example, just because that's the only one I know of at this point. KSI, is like, use my music. I'll never ever copy strike it. Use it all, and like someone like that, maybe you don't like his music, but because he's not going to copy strike you and it's free to use, you'll start playing it, and it's only going to help KSI. It's going to help independent artists who aren't signed. And like, in my opinion, eventually the small independent artists would then become the popular artists based off the wave of streamers using their music. If they're able to like, kind of mainstream their music in a way, as an independent. I just think it's really, really interesting in that way.
Weird. I feel like we've had these DMCA debates at least like a few times a year. Didn't this drama already happen like a long time ago? People were talking about, I can't play music anymore.
Yeah, it was like 6 months ago, maybe. Basically, that was like the first run of it when Twitch changed their guidelines. But like that, Twitch at that time only really clamped down on like the DJ streamers. Like there's a lot of streamers who like just DJ all day with like copyrighted music, or like karaoke streamers or people who sing along with music on their streams, or like
that's the thing, dude. They have karaoke on Twitch. Like how is like that's just a part of their culture. So I'm
it's like
sure.
those areas of Twitch really got hit hard by Twitch's new rules. I don't know, man. I just think that
is
big
it more
time.
so you can play it, but you have to. It can't be in a VOD later.
Well, right, and that's the debate. It's like, are you going to be fine if you just delete your VOD immediately when the stream ends? Possibly. I saw Devin Nash, kind of like he's like a esports analyst, like a esports news update business guy. He said that for now you should be fine if you delete your VODs probably, but eventually the technology will get good enough where they can identify it midstream, and then you might be in trouble.
Yeah. Well, what Twitch used to do, they used to just mute in the VODs. They would just mute the part that had the copyrighted music.
That was fine for a while, but apparently it wasn't doing a good enough job. Like if the music was quiet enough.
Yeah, things would slip through easily. Like there'd be points where like my music is definitely still playing in this VOD.
Right. So I don't know. My thought on Twitter was like, what if Twitch was to Spotify with like music platforms was to partner with music platforms like Spotify, and like you could partner with them. You could integrate your Twitch and your Spotify. So like whenever you were playing a song, it would like say, oh, there's 5,000 people watching this stream, so this song gets 5,000 like plays. So it counts as 5,000 plays, and then Twitch is paying a certain percentage of that to Spotify, and it's like a partnership to promote Spotify, but also to like allow music on the platform. I thought that could be pretty cool. Maybe that's already getting worked on. I don't know. But I don't know. In my opinion, in 5 to 10 years, these record labels are going to realize they made a massive mistake, kind of like how baseball and MLB made a massive mistake with getting rid of the freedom to post highlights on your Twitters and on YouTube, and like really clamping down on baseball highlights. Like literally, as a fan, if you posted like a home run on your Twitter, you would get banned on Twitter.
Wow.
And like it completely shut down people talking about their sport on Twitter, because it's like you're just gonna get banned if you post any or see any highlights, and there's no highlights of your sport on Twitter. Like I think the same thing's gonna happen with record labels. They're gonna realize they made a big mistake within 5 to 10 years, and there's all these random independent artists are gonna blow up because small streamers start exploring the independent artist music. But I've ranted too long. This is a Call of Duty podcast. We could probably talk about some other things. So let's go from one rant to another. Let's get into our first segment here. We had a long news segment. I'm sorry about that, guys. But let's get into our first segment. I want to talk about the most valuable discussion. Let's hit like a little best in the game drop, because why not? Let's get right into it. Here I am. Let's go. Okay, so obviously last week we all know what went down. Me and Rex and Sam, really me and Rex.
You and Rex
got into a heated debate about the most valuable players in Call of Duty. To simplify it, basically we made a top 10 list. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, I highly recommend it. Honestly, the podcast could have got more views. A little sad. I get it's the off season, but hey. Things happen. But we had some disputes on the definition of valuable, and Rex already looks checked out. I don't know why Rex's hands are up. He's got the wave the white flag. He knows I'm right. That's
waving
why.
The white flag. We're just beating a dead horse here with this.
No. We're not. Because last podcast, I want this to be a very distinct conversation versus what I don't want to go around in circles like the last podcast. We went and just we were a NASCAR race last time around with the podcast. So. I do think we made a mistake in not doing 3 separate lists, because obviously we went to this with a very different idea of what valuable means. How I wanted to approach this conversation was, at least I wanted to explain how I went to it with my definition of valuable, and then I want to hear the differences in your guys' takes on what valuable means. Also, Rex, your camera is really unfocused, but there you go. Oh, nailed it. But basically, how I was gauging it, and I think we should have talked more about this before our podcast. I think we kind of rushed into it because we had a lot of things going on. But how I want to approach like the most valuable conversation is if the player we're talking about was replaced by the definition of the most average player in the Call of Duty League, how would the team perform with that average player instead of the valuable one? Or if the valuable player was surrounded by the 4 most average players in the league, how would that team perform? Both of those ways, you can go both ways with that one. And there might be a different answer for each one, but I think they're both pretty valid in the MVP discussion. And also how I went after the MVP, debate last episode. Of course I had like guys like Simp and Envoy and Arcides and Abizi and Shotzi and Cellium, pretty high up on the list. And Clay and Crim were like, hovering around 10-ish, right in there. Last year in the season MVP race, I mean, we saw Shotzi, Cellium, Simp, Envoy, and Skies as the 5 candidates for the MVP race. And I mean, if people are that opposed that, those guys don't bring the top 5 or 10 most value, then I guess that's fine. But like, in my opinion, those guys are incredibly valuable and very deserving of a top 5, top 10 spot in the list. And I do agree. I mean, of course, like Champs MVP was Crim, and Crim said, I want to give it to Clay as well. So like, I get that argument as well, that Crim and Clay do bring a lot to a team. And then I think we also didn't clarify very well that our most valuable discussion had absolutely nothing to do with brand or what they brought to the organization, value-wise. It was solely about in-game winning maps and winning matches, winning events, the value that a player brings. And so, like, that's why I felt like guys like Shotzi...
That's not what I took into account totally. I didn't take just into account gun skill. I took into account all the aspects of building a team. If there's a team, what's the team culture going to be like, and how is that team going to play?
Well, I mean, sure. I feel like I took that into account as well in my rankings. I mean, if you don't, then like certain guys are going to be way lower on the list. Like if you don't take those into account, then Crim and Clay aren't on the list. So you have to take those things into account. I 100% agree with you. Like, I don't know. Basically, my thought process was, the positions in COD, like main SMG and Slayer, like the main SMGs, the best main SMGs are very hard to find. It's a lot easier to find ARs. It's a lot easier to find flexes. And so I really prioritize those, in my mind, very valuable positions in those players. Guys like Simp, Envoy, Shotzi, and Abizi, like guys like that, Priesta. Although Priesta does flex nowadays, but he's a main SMG this year. Anyway, like that was kind of like my process for the top 10, and I don't think I very well explained it last week. And if you guys wanted to kind of explain how you went into it a little bit more clearly, so we can kind of see why all three of us like really clashed, then that would be good. Rex, like, where do you feel like you differed in like when you hear most valuable player in the discussion? Like how much different did you take that?
What are they like? There's, again, people always talk about the intangibles, and I was like bringing that into account. Like it's Crim6 and Clay, and even players like Scump. To be honest, like they bring a certain culture to a team that is extremely beneficial when it comes to practicing, when it comes to everything to do team related. They bring a lot. They also bring their veteran brain, their strategies, like things that they bring in that way, where they're able to take people down. And we act like, Crim and Clay can't shoot straight, but they were still pretty good.
For sure.
Like people act like they couldn't shoot, but like they're still really good. I think in this top echelon of people who can shoot straight with gun skill and everything. Like I don't think people give them enough credit in that way either, too. I think they're the whole package. Like, and that's what makes an MVP for me, is like, are they the whole package? And they are.
I mean, I totally understand that. Like, again, I don't feel like I was like horribly disrespecting them, like having them hovering around 10. I mean, there are like, last year there was 60 starters in the league. Like 10 is pretty freaking good. But yeah, I don't know, Sam.
Yeah, no, I was definitely like thinking about like everything. I even when I made my list initially, I was taking into account brand too. Like,
right. We didn't do a good job of like setting our foundation when we went into it. Like we were basically a little behind the scenes. We were like, all right, guys, make your 10 most valuable list. And I kind of just assumed we all had the same idea. Because I was thinking of it like, okay, regular season MVP like type situation heading into Cold War. But anyway.
But no. So like that was kind of what what I was thinking too, was like Brand obviously was thinking, on the same lines of like Rex, intangibles, people that can really just like build a team. I don't know. I had like a very a kind of like evenly like gun skill, and then people that that can bring a team, because I truly believe you need to have both players on your team. You need to have guys that are simply amazing, but like you do have to have those Clay and Crims. I know we're pretty much using Clay and Crim as like the veteran,
right? Slasher, those types of guys.
Slasher, those type of guys. So I don't know. I just don't think you can do it on your own. As in, like, you can't be 4 crack players and you can't be 4 veteran players. You need the right mix, and that was like what was all going in my head. So I don't know.
You need brains, you need guns, you need culture.
Yeah. Right, for sure. And like that's why this is a team sport, and that's why it's such an interesting game. I love competitive Call of Duty because you do need all those things. And like I don't think the average fan gets how important all aspects of those things are. They see the KD and they're like, "Oh, this guy dominated." And that's, I think, like almost the conversation tilted in such the opposite direction. I was like so mind blown. I mean, like KD is not everything, but at the same time, KD matters. Like it does show like winning gunfights is important. Like you do have to get kills. Of course, Empire in certain points last year was like, I mean, we can lose as many gunfights really as needed as long as we win the rotations. And so it did work for Empire, and then in Champs, of course, I totally get that. I will 100% stick by my take that Simp is definitely more valuable than Clayster, but I do think I did have Clayster a little bit low after like in my first initial ranking. Like I had him at 11, I think. I had him a little bit too low. I would really put him like at probably 8 or 7, somewhere in there.
Where's Crime at?
Probably like at 9 or 10.
Oh, what about Slasher?
Right around that 7 to 10 range as well. I mean, again, I haven't really put out like a list, but yeah. So I don't know. I just wanted to like talk about that. I do think as well, because we made one list and we came at it from such opposite ways, like what you were saying last episode, 100% was the case. Like our list made really no sense because there were so many different like takes lined up in it. Like,
if we were decided, we had a definition of what valuable was, then we could have gone with that. But
right,
yeah, there's different things.
Our philosophies were way too different to like try to come together on a list, and so it made the conversation way too hectic. Anyway, I felt like that was worthy of clearing the air on, because there was a lot of miscommunication there, I feel like, in one of our least well communicated points of the year. And so I wanted to clear the air there before we left it in the dust. But I do want to have a discussion about like at some point this year about like maybe like revisiting it in a way and doing it. And maybe we do like a mid-season, like a specifically only Black Ops Cold War mid-season, and we can come at it again in some different way. That'd be interesting. Okay. And I also do want to have a discussion of the 10 most like valuable to an organization debate, because I think that'd be a good one to have as down the road as well. Maybe the next few weeks. But yeah, so that was our quick little segment 1 that I wanted to kind of cover, and going into our final segment of the day, talking about the best formats for this upcoming CDL year. So let's get right into that discussion and hit the drop.
We're just brainstorming here. We're trying to figure out how to make the news less boring, and you act like we peed in your milkshake.
All right, baby. CDL format. So obviously this year, the current format, just a little refresher, a little brain exercise for you guys. All teams hosted a home series. There was a kickoff event, which each team played 2 matches, and every win on the year counted as 10 CDL points, which the CDL points organized the standings. And then each team hosted a home series. 8 of the 12 teams attended that home series. There was a 10-point bonus for winning, so the winning team would win 3 matches plus, 4 matches plus a 10-point bonus. Yeah. And that means the second place team would have got 30 points because they won 3 matches and lost the grand finals, and so forth. And then at Champs, all teams qualified, but the bottom 4 in CDL Pro Point standings started in the losers bracket. So that was kind of where we were at with the whole format of this season. I guess I'll just open it up. I mean, what do you guys want to see changed, and what do you think could be the best format for this season?
Okay, so my only thing that I harp on this all the time. I'm not so much concerned about the format, although I will talk about it later. But my big thing is that these other events, these other games they're playing, they have to matter when it comes champs time. And champs needs to be set up in a way where it's not just everybody goes, in my opinion. Not everybody starts in the same spot in champ.
Right. There has to be value to the regular season.
There has to be value to the regular season. That's something I think is necessary. And so I'll leave off with that. Sam, you can go ahead.
No, I actually do agree. At the beginning of last year, I would have disagreed. I would have wanted everyone to be at champs.
Interesting.
But I think there should be, because there needs to be reward for performing well at the midseason.
I mean, this champs overall though did a pretty good job of. Rex, I do want to hear. Do you feel like they over rewarded the top teams and under rewarded the bottom teams, or like it just wasn't a fair balance? On a scale of 1 to 10, how well did this champs award the regular season?
I mean, they rewarded it a lot, of course. Like Dallas only had to win 2 series and they were champs. So it's like
3.
That was too much, but they were kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, because like they want the points to matter, but the way they had it set up during the regular season and how many teams we have, how do you justify it? Like if we're having every team go, that's just gonna have to be how it happened. There's just not enough teams to make it longer. I would have been fine of kicking out the bottom 4 and say they don't go to champs at all, or the bottom whatever, and then have the rest of the 8 do almost like a regular tournament, or like do groups, and then obviously like seeded 1, and then you have like the bottom seed in that group too.
You have 2 groups.
Yeah, and then do it like that, and then round robin or whatever, and then you go into the tournament, and then same thing.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thought about if you just cut out the bottom 4 and then the rest are just seeded 1 to 8, my biggest worry with that is that, like, basically if you're in the middling 3 through 5, like, there's a world where, like, by the end of the year, the last 2 tournaments, like, we're basically already top 8. We don't have a chance to catch up to the top 2, so it's like, it doesn't really matter at all. Like, that's my biggest worry, is that, I mean, again, then you could argue, well, that's fine, because the first few tournaments mattered so much that, like, by the end of the regular season, then you're looking towards champs anyway. So I can see both arguments. I don't know, Sam, what are your thoughts?
I did not like how, like, Dallas and FaZe were, played 3 matches, or, however it ended up.
Right, Dallas played 3. Yeah.
So that seemed kind of whack, but maybe you do have, like, the bottom 4 pretty much, duke it out to where they're, 2 are guaranteed to lose right away, drop out right away, but they still do have a chance, quote unquote. I don't know. Like, I guess if they did do what they did this season, but like balance it better to where maybe it's like,
is there a world where you could do like the bottom 4 don't even make champs, then the top 8, the top 3 or the top 4 get buys, first round buys, and then the second ones get and then 4th or 5 through 8 have to play
first, and then
it's a double elim tournament.
In a double elim tournament,
maybe.
But then I think that would still require the number 1 and number 2 seeds to have 2 buys, though, because then I don't know if that would work. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, the champs format's still a little bit of a question mark for me, especially since there's a world where we still have some LAN tournaments this year, and people looks like they're trying to make it happen. Again, we can't even rule out the bubble at this point. There's a world where the bubble still happens, which is like, now if we had 4v4, 100 T-back, and a bubble, I would be losing it. I would be hyped.
I mean, I would say this. If we went bubble, I personally, I know it's not a popular opinion, but I like just have like the regular season games where they play, each team plays like their 1 game for the day, and the next day they play their next game for the weekend.
Right.
I think
and they just get those points for winning. I honestly like that. I feel like it's really digestible, and then you move on.
I do agree. I think in a bubble, like you might have to do it. I agree. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed. I mean, that's what the CWL was for all those years. Yeah. And I thought that was hate it, But like, it didn't get me excited to get on. I mean, this year I was very excited for every single tournament. I'm like, yes, this weekend CDL Toronto. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to this. Even with just 8 teams, I thought it added some interest, it added some variety. We saw so many teams in the grand finals. Like, I thought it was really cool and worked out pretty well, even though it doesn't come off as fulfilling of a tournament. I do think that there needs to be like a mid-season championship type situation, like a mid-season tournament with all 12 teams. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds pretty good to me. Definitely. I mean, I don't know. Like, I go back and forth on like the regular season, but also having the tournaments.
It's just miss tournaments.
I want champs to be bigger, and like the regular season mattering more. And so like that's where it's difficult to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, I understand that.
I think they did a pretty good job this year. It's just if we had more teams, it would work out better because then it's not just like 2 series and done. It would have been like so much more going on with it. Like you had to play more
I totally
series.
agree. Like if you have 16 teams, then the bottom 4 get cut from champs. Then you have a 12-team tournament with 3 pools of 4. Like that still rewards the really good teams with pretty easy pools, and you still have 12 teams there to create a pretty epic tournament. You know, I totally agree with you. Like that 16 makes it so much easier to have a league. So it's unfortunate that we're not going to have 16 probably for another 2 years, or at least for another year. I don't know. It's hard if we're not bubbling, and I would imagine it's not very likely that we bubble at this point. I would put it at like a 15% chance. I think it's very likely that we just play online, especially with guys moving to Dallas and finding apartments and everything. It seems like we're going to be playing online. The biggest question is like, do you stick with the 8 teams at every tournament? Do you go to 12? Do you find a different way to do it? Like, and if you go to 12, does that diminish something? Like, if you're having a full-on tournament with every single team there each week, how much is actually going to change in like every 2 weeks? Or how often do you have a tournament at that point? I don't know.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, you definitely, if you're doing the full open, you need to like space them out way better, or not better, just way more than a 8-team tournament for sure.
Yeah.
You have to.
So you do 8, you get more tournaments, but if you do 12, they're the full 12, but less often.
I didn't mind like the combo league play plus tournaments.
Right.
That was pretty cool, but I don't know.
So would you rather have? Here's option 1 and 2, and let's choose between these two. Then we can go with a third option. Would you rather have kind of like what the CWL did before? You have league play in season. You have 2 seasons in a year leading up to champs. You have season 1, and then a playoffs, and you have a playoff champion. Then you have season 2, and a playoff champion, and then all of those points combined lead into a COD Champs seeding with a massive COD Champs tournament in some way. That's option 1. Option 2 is exactly like last year. Which one would you rather have?
Well, option 1, I like the idea of like doing the playoff, like all that.
Do we get?
But again, where's the reward coming for
the playoffs? Like the season 1 and season 2 playoffs are tournaments.
Nothing else though.
Yeah, the league. Everything else is league play.
But what's the benefit with the like? Is it still a point system? So
yeah, it's a point system.
What's champs look like in that scenario?
Open bracket with the seeded teams based off points.
I mean, it's
so
probably
all they do is just have a higher seed.
I don't know. Let's not acknowledge champs at this point for either scenario.
Well, if we're not acknowledging chance, I like option 1.
Okay. Versus what last year was?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's fun, honestly. Yeah.
Interesting.
I probably prefer the turn. I don't know.
Because otherwise you're getting, every weekend, I would imagine. Well, then maybe it's during the week too. I don't know. It kind of depends how they schedule it. I mean, I know the CWL was during the week, but that was kind of because they were forced to, because they were playing locally in Columbus, and so they had to like really pump out the matches. I don't know. I'm not really sold on either option. I 100% agree. 16 teams would make this thing.
Champs for me. Like I can't say option 1 if I don't know how it affects champs. And same thing with option 2.
Interesting. I mean, I feel like either way, yeah. I don't know. I mean, like, is there another option then that comes to mind how it could potentially play out? Like, I mean, we're never gonna. I don't really ever see a way where we have like open brackets ever again because of franchising. So it's like you can't really go back to any type of format that was similar to what the CWL was in that way when it comes to like major events. So otherwise, you know, you do a format in some way, and then you just supplement. You know, you kind of do the same format as CWL, where you do major tournament. You have like 3 major tournaments throughout the year, plus 2 playoffs, and then league play for those playoffs. And then all of those points tally up into COD Champs seedings. You know, and only the top 8 of the 12 qualify for champs. You know, like you could do something like that. I mean, I would like to, you know, I'll definitely be interested to see what the comments has to say about what you think the best format is, because I don't really know if there's a better way to do it than last year to keep like a interest week in and week out. I mean, when you have like 4 tournaments in a row and it feels like they're all pretty interesting. But that was a lot of like intense amount of hours of Call of Duty to watch each weekend.
It was a lot.
It was great, honestly. But
it made me really unproductive outside of doing watch parties.
Yeah, champs was kind of like, it was good as they could do, but just the fact that the Empire played 2 series, like it was just kind of like, really, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You didn't get to see much of the best teams, which is a little weird for champs, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough to do it that way, where like in COD things change so much, and like you play against each team so many times in the year, like versus football where you play a team once and then you may not play them for, you know, 6 months till the playoffs, versus COD where like there's a pretty good chance you played the team you're playing in the first round last like 2 weeks ago. You know, so it's like a little bit tougher of like this feels epic when you're playing against these teams so much throughout one season. So like that's my hesitation with doing like, you know, multiple 12-team tournaments, because otherwise you're going to see every team play every team quite a bit. And then the other question is, how do you seed those 12-team tournaments, you know? And that was the question last year, where the seeds of each tournament were predetermined before the year started. Is there a better way to do it? Is it better for the first maybe 4 to be predetermined, or the first 3 to be predetermined, and then the rest are seeded? You know, so you have more fair matchups. Like, I don't know. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on that when it comes to seeding and how that could play out next year as well?
I mean, that's not too, I mean, that's kind of difficult to do. I mean, you might be able to go off like the history of a team, of what they did in Modern Warfare, can like sort of carry over. But I mean, I think how they did it this year is not that bad.
I think they just do random for the whole year.
Like a random draw predetermined or not predetermined?
Gosh. I guess like
for the regular season, right?
Yeah, what I don't want is to like say like a team gets kind of random the first 2
because this year was obviously not random.
Yeah, no.
I mean, they were like manually all right, these are going to create some good matchups, blah, 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 you know?
I guess I would like to make it as random as possible for each tournament. Like, because then like what you could get into is like, if it was like random for only like the first 3, well then like what if Paris, you know, plays Huntsmen, FaZe, Empire, then they get seeded horribly, then they never got that horrible seed.
But at the same time, in the random seeds, I mean, the Rocker got screwed at the end of the season with like 3 straight top stacked brackets. I mean, top stacked pools at the home series, and they got bodied because of it, because they lost like they were in the Empire, FaZe, and either Mutineers or Huntsmen brackets or pools, 3 like their last 3 events, and like they got bodied because of it.
Maybe it's not random. Maybe you make sure that each team tries to play each other.
Or maybe you randomize certain ones and then other ones are based off the standings. Is that possible? So like then like let's say you have like every 3 tournaments is one based off the standings.
Could be.
So then like you're guaranteeing some randomness and also some that is like more fair matchups. That like not every tournament's gonna completely screw you, you know? Like, I don't know. I get the pros and cons of both, but like there's definitely some pretty big cons of both options, in my opinion, when it comes to like doing like a 8 of 12 teams are at every tournament type situation. I don't know. I mean, is there a better alternative with 12 teams than 8 of the 12 attending every tournament, unless you're literally doing, multiple quote unquote majors each year and then tallying up those results? I mean, if you were going to do just majors and no league play, how would you do that? There'd be pool play at every event, and then you'd head into a double elimination bracket. And how many events could you possibly have on the year?
I mean, I don't know if I really
8?
like that idea.
Yeah.
But, I mean, what do other esports do?
That's a great question.
Most of them do, I think they just do like regular season games, and then they have, like their playoff. Like, I think League of Legends, like the spring split and the summer split. So, like, it's regular season, I think.
Right.
Don't quote me on this. Then they reach the end of the spring split, and then it kind of goes to a tournament. And the best in those, you go into the summer split, best in those, and then out of the average of all that is who goes to Worlds.
Right. Obviously, that's not how COD would work because there's not different regions.
We don't have enough teams either, but yeah. That's like where it's tough. And then Overwatch, they just do like regular season games, and then they have their stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4 playoffs.
Yeah.
And then champs is based off like,
what if there was a situation?
Whatever team.
What if there was a situation? What if you did? Here's an idea. This could be terrible. I have no idea. What if there was 3 seasons, kind of like season 1, season 2, and season 3 of the regular season, and then each season capped off with a major tournament between, and the league play seeded the tournament, and then the only way to actually earn points was based off those major tournaments, or maybe they were worth significantly more than the league play themselves.
But then but I feel like the regular season really wouldn't matter for those. Like, the best team is just gonna be the best team. Like, having the higher seed or not, like, it's just gonna be like whatever,
Okay, yes, but then those tournaments would have a ton of hype. And then only teams that finished in the top 4 of those tournaments would qualify for champs. So you have no guaranteed number of teams for champs. There could just be 4 if only the same 4 teams were the top 4 at all 3 of those tournaments. And it just kind of depends. And so and then of course you're still
who are in the top 4 of each stage.
But you could also have 4 different. You could have all 12 at champs then if there's 4 different top 4s, all 3 tournaments. Then there's no guarantee for how many teams were at champs. That could be interesting.
It could be, but it could also be like you probably get like a ton of new questions. Like,
but then once you get top 4 once, what's the point of trying to like?
Because you're still making money and you're getting your seeds that matter in champs, and then maybe you could give a bye week to the top 2 seeds of at the end of the season overall standings, or something like that. You can give bye weeks.
If it rewarded champs enough, I like make a point that like it's good. Like, you really want to make sure you're getting in those top 4s of groups every single time.
It'd be kind of fun. I mean,
so it needs to reward that.
Yeah. And there'd be like the storylines of like, all right, Toronto needs to get top 4 here to punch their ticket to COD champs, and like this is the last tournament of the year. This is Toronto's last chance to qualify for COD champs. It all comes down to this tournament, this series versus London, and if they beat them, they're gonna finish top 4 and punch their ticket for champs. London needs to win this to get a top 2 seed, in the playoffs and get a bye week in the first round, and secure themselves X amount of money, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I think there's different ways that could play out that could be pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's not terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, that would be kind of interesting. At least it's a very different idea versus like just the average tournaments. I mean, do any other ideas
come to mind? Based on how these tournaments go, I mean, last year would have been like 3 teams that were consistently there, and then one other like random team, right?
I mean, yeah. It would be hard to say like what teams would finish top 4 every event, but I mean, I feel like you
for 3 stages. I mean, you imagine like FaZe, Empire, Huntsmen, and then one other
Florida
team.
Well, but like it wouldn't happen. I'm sure there'd be a handful of like variety. I bet you would get like 7 or 8 teams in champs, probably.
Maybe
it would only get a little weird if there was odd numbers.
All the teams are there. You like that's like there's only gonna be one spot left, so at least like there might be an extra 3 different. but what if Mutineers decides to show up for 2 playoffs in a row, and then now we only have 5 teams there?
Well, what if the top 6 seeds would get their spot, or the top 8 seeds would get their spots, or if you win an event, maybe you do top 6. If the top 6 get a spot, or if you win an event, you guarantee yourself a spot. Or if you finish top 4 in an event, you guarantee yourself a spot. So like,
you know what might be cool?
That could be interesting.
And like make it even more brutal to get to champs, of like do the regular season games, or even do like the tournament format or whatever. Wow, nah, that might be too brutal. But then like you only do like the top 6 that actually like top 6 in points are the only ones that go.
Yeah, that's possible.
Like now you're cutting down a lot of other teams. So like it makes it more brutal, more important to make sure like you're staying up there.
Well, how about you would not be able to make champs if you didn't finish top 2 at one of the events last year. You couldn't make champs
during the year.
Yeah, like there was like a rule like.
I mean, I don't
and
know.
if you won an event, you punch your ticket into champs. I feel like there's just like more interesting ways to like qualify for champs than just by a point system that slowly tallies up over 8 months. You know, like it's just, at least in my opinion, not that interesting. Like, you know, I mean, that's the same thing with like the NFL playoffs. Like you have wild cards, and then you've got if you win your division, you make the like playoffs. So what if you did that? What if you have 12 teams and you have 4 divisions of 3 teams, and each team, the winner of each division, qualifies for champs, and then there's X amount of wild. There's 2 or 3 wild cards. Yeah, there's, I guess, how many? There's 4 wild card spots, so 8 teams make champs. There's 4 divisions of 3 teams, and then 4 wild card spots based off points, and the next 4 highest in points win. So you could have a team that gets lucky with a pool, with like a worse pool, but then at least if you're really good, you still qualify because of a wild card.
Right.
That could be pretty good. Yeah.
That's not too bad. I'm not against that.
So that's like a different way, like add a little bit more like rivalry and like meaning into certain matchups. Like, Toronto and London are in pool or the C division or the B. I don't know how you want to label them. The Division 2, and this matchup determines who wins Division 2 to qualify for champs, to clinch the division. And then at that point, Toronto is, if you lose that game, now Toronto's fighting for a wild card spot, and they're only 3 points up on Paris for the last wild card spot for champs.
So you only play in your division?
No, you don't only play in your division, but like it's still the same. It's still the same tournament format, but maybe
it just creates more rivalry
against 2 other teams to try.
Yeah, it creates more rivalry. Yeah. But it's still kind of like a very similar way. I just think there's more twists.
Then like there might be a division where it's like the 3 teams in there are probably the best teams in the whole thing.
I mean, sure, but at the same time, like if there's a division between FaZe, Huntsmen, and Empire, sure, that's really unfortunate for FaZe and Empire, or Huntsmen, or whoever sucks, or Empire and whatever. But at the same time, they're going to make it to the champs anyway.
Due to wild card.
Because of wild cards. So I mean. I don't know. I just feel like it's like another like twist on like creating more rivalry. It has really no impact on like the regular season besides just hype, I guess, or interest.
Yeah.
But that's like a fun twist on it, at least. Again, I'm just throwing out ideas. They're just coming to mind and pulling from other, like that's what baseball does. So it's like I'm just pulling from other sports. I mean, is there anything else that like you feel like could like be interesting when it comes to that, or like any option that you like specifically prefer? I feel like that's kind of a fun one. But
yeah, no, that wild card's pretty cool. Just creating a different, vibe than just like you said, just accruing points at a time.
I do wish that they would allow 1 open bracket per year, just 1.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Do like what golf does. They have 1 open tournament per year, the U.S. Open, every year. The top AMs are all invited once a year. And being a pro is a very exclusive club. It's hard to be a pro, and they only give out so many pro spots. It's like COD. Like you can't just be a pro, know? And then, but once a year, they let the AMs play with the pros. Why can't we do that, I mean, I don't know.
Because some teams would probably get embarrassed.
Well, make a freaking better team.
Yeah.
I know, but like it doesn't look good on the league.
Sign the team that beat you. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Shut up and play some COD, man. Be better.
Yeah.
You know, like
I agree.
I think
I would like that too. I think it'd be really fun.
and it
but
would push the
like,
it would push the absolutely crap teams
we're
to be
sitting
better.
here and then we watch like team, whatever, just destroy Paris.
I mean, I'm down to watch Team War smoke Paris. I mean, aren't you down?
I'm down too, but I don't think the league would be down.
It's only once a year,
Paris
though.
Would be down.
Well, then Paris can be like, well, maybe we should drop our team and pick up Team War.
Yeah.
I think it creates for some interest.
Good, man. I mean, I would think it's fun, but it just like would not look good for the league.
It looks bad for one team in the league, or maybe two.
Yeah.
And then you get to figure out who the top the AM teams are, and then that allows those bad teams.
It delegitimizes the whole thing. Like, these are supposed to be the best players in the world, the whole thing. But then it's like, oh, some amateurs came in and just smoked them. It's like, wow, I mean, they're really bad. They're in the pro scene. How does this even happen?
Like there's amateurs who have finished top 5, top 10 in the pro am or in the U.S. Open leaderboards before. Yeah. Like, okay, yeah, they're embarrassing other pros.
I don't really care about that simply because it could show if people are just signing people just because like
the friendship.
And also, Paris put in $25 million into this league. They don't want to be embarrassed like that. Nobody wants to be embarrassed like that.
But then they signed the team.
Yeah.
But they put in 20. They don't want to be embarrassed at all. Like that's the like they don't want to have that embarrassment at all. They put
but it's
in
better for the
lots and lots of money.
I don't think Paris would be
and
embarrassed.
It just hurts the team. It's like, I just gave you $25 million and you decide to embarrass me by throwing AM teams at me. Like, they're gonna be pissed.
That's on the players.
I
know it's on the players. I'm not saying it's not on the players. But like, it's just something an org will never want to have to deal with.
No, but I think
and
that
if
gives.
They do. It's
honestly,
like, well, why did we have to deal with this in the first place?
I think that gives franchises more options because
so
then
many memes would come out.
It's less of a risk to pick up that amateur now, and then maybe they'd actually feel more free in doing it. Maybe they wanted to do it, but it's like, this is a massive risk. We have no clue how these guys perform against pro players. We would love to pick up this team, but we just haven't seen how they play against pros. We don't know. So we're not going to be willing to do it. So it would actually, I think, give bad teams more options to pick up the amateur teams.
I mean, just
maybe.
Okay, then they go and the amateur team gets like, it's. I mean, I don't know. It
pick
just doesn't
up better
work.
players.
Especially because these orgs. You got to think these orgs are trying to make money off of what they're doing. And by doing that, it doesn't help their cause. They don't make money when their team gets embarrassed by an amateur team. They lose a lot of money.
Yes, but also it helps the CDL in the long term for sure.
Which also helps
them make money
because they're all
shared revenue.
They're all profit sharing.
They're profit sharing.
They're getting smoked, but they're still profit sharing.
And
the
fans want to see it. It helps develop the amateur scene. It'll help give AMs more reason to grind, more reason to play, like an opportunity to show off who are the best players in the league. Teams can show off new things. I think it helps the scene as a whole, and would be really interesting as a mid-season tournament. Mm-hmm. But because a few owners are scared,
great entertainment,
or a few players are scared to get embarrassed, don't get embarrassed. Yeah. Go kick the crap out of the amateur teams, which I'm sure a lot of the pro teams would love to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and why take that risk? It doesn't make sense as an org. It just doesn't. You're branded by, whatever company, HyperX, but then, because you're this pro Call of Duty League team, you're cool, whatever. Oh, we just got beat by, Johnny around the block. It's like,
well, then they signed Johnny around the block. Now Johnny around the block takes it to OpTic Gaming.
Sponsors will be like, well, you've lost to them. You guys have no idea what you're doing, and they back out. No more sponsor. They don't care.
Again,
who
the
they
league
pick
is
up
league sharing.
like they embarrass the sponsor.
Teams need to be in
never
it.
Coming back to that team.
Teams need to be in it for the benefit of the league. For the league. The league prospers if the water rises. The water rising, rises all boats. Like the tide. That's what
not in that scenario. It raises everybody else's boat, but the one team does not get
not
raised.
The profits.
They get sunk
because overall it helps the league grow.
They lost
by developing an amateur scene.
It doesn't work.
I don't think they're going to lose the sponsorship because they lose one game in the whole year. Like again, this is one tournament.
I'm not saying
in the
that
whole year.
That's what would happen, but like. That's definitely like a fear I'm sure that they would have. It's like, why?
I just think
is
that
really
helps.
That much better to have it or just like and take that risk.
I just think the beauty of COD Esports and the beauty of esports, and like what intrigued me to start playing competitive COD, as maybe outlandish as it was back in Ghosts and AW, was that in theory you could start playing league play or playing GBs, and then a few years down the road, you strike gold at an open bracket tournament and now suddenly you're a pro. Like that was like the beauty of COD, and it's a shame that we've lost it. And the open bracket,
there wasn't a $25 million buy-in.
At the same time, it's just an opportunity for the amps to compete against the pros in some way. None of the amp teams are going to win this tournament. There's no way the amp teams are winning the tournament.
Yeah.
Like maybe they could compete against some of the bottom tier teams. Like I'm sure Triumph by the end of the year could have competed against the bottom 4 teams in COD. But again, maybe they would have got picked up in a different year if it wasn't because of COVID. And if they were actually able to play against those teams, I bet some of these orgs like LA Gorillas and Paris would have been very excited to have an alternate option that they think could have competed right away with their roster. I don't know. I think it's actually a really interesting idea and could be fun. And I would love to see that as part of the format for the Call of Duty League this season. Realistically, it's probably more like it's going to be next year. But I don't know. I think it needs to be involved at some point in COD back again, because it's just back to the roots of Call of Duty. And it's like something that the CDL needs to be willing to do, even though it could put a few teams at risk of being embarrassed and shown up by an amateur team. And maybe there's like some sort of stipulant where like the amateur teams can't win prize money. But like the amateur teams are still going to compete, because they're going to have a chance to play against the pros, and only the prize money goes to the top the top 6, pros or whatever. But anyway, that's probably a rant for another day at the end of the time. But I don't know. Any final thoughts on Champs format? Our Champs format on regular season format. Do you have any final preference on what the best format is?
I think just for this year, I think we stick with what we are currently doing until we
Get back to LAN?
Get to LAN, A, and then B, also get to 16 teams. We can have more freedom to do some more with the tournament stuff. But I think just for this year, we just stick with what we did last year.
Honestly, yeah, I'm with Sam on that one a little bit.
Yeah.
It was good still. Like, Champs was still hype. Everything was still hype for me. It was not a bad year.
I guess for me, like, the biggest thing would be, like, if we can get to a point where we can do some majors with all 12 teams there on LAN, like in March, like a mid-season major, that would be ideal. Or if we can do that even in June, a little bit later, I'm down. Like a mid-season major, that's what I want to see. One mid-season major at least, where we get one full 12-team tournament that, awards points towards the standings for champs. I'm definitely in on that.
That would be fun too, yeah.
Yeah, so that would be like the one edition I would love to see. And then my dream edition is one tournament that's an open bracket tournament. Obviously that's my personal dream scenario, would be one tournament a year where we get a US Open style tournament for COD. But I think that wraps up the podcast finally, a long one, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. A lot went into this one, lots of random news, lots of different discussions in this one. Kind of one of our more like obscure podcasts, I think. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you guys did, drop a comment down below on YouTube, drop a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We do read them, as you guys heard earlier in the pod. And guys, we'll be back at it again very shortly. But as always, guys, I'm your boy SalvationsElite. To my right is Bash_Bo3 Sam. And to our farthest right per use is Rex Shady Nero. And guys, we will see you next time. We out.